Good morning, class. It's Miss Cash, and I am here to give you a few notes, help you out with some of the things you already learned in class yesterday. Please write these in your notes. I will be checking tomorrow to see if you have done them, so it's in your best interest to go ahead and take these notes. The notes should be titled Exponent Laws. You can either write them on a regular sheet of paper, or if you have some math notes paper, write them on the math notes paper. If you need extra time to get out some paper, please ask the sub to pause the video while you get your papers out. I'm going to keep talking through the whole thing. I'm not going to pause a whole lot, so if I'm going too fast, please ask someone to pause the video so that you can finish writing before I move on. All right, and so our first topic is multiplication. Yesterday we learned that when we multiply, we add the exponents. Algebraically, we would write it like this. If we have x to the power a times x to the power b, what we get when we multiply is x to the power a plus b. Let's look at an example. I did make the examples a bit complicated because I want to make sure that you have something tough enough that when you come to ones on the worksheet, they don't stump you. If you can do these, you should easily be able to do the easy ones. Okay, so looking at this example, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers. We have 2 and 7. Those are coefficients. They come before the variables, so they do not follow the exponent rules. We simply multiply them together. So 2 times 7 gives us 14. Then we look at each variable individually. We'll start with the x values. We have x to the power 3, and then we have x to the power 2. We add our exponents, so our final value is going to be x to the power 3 plus 2, or x to the power 5. Finally, we'll look at the y values. In the boxes there, we have y to the power 4, and the last one has no exponent. I talked with many of you yesterday. If it has no exponent, it's power 1. We do have to add that 1 in to get our final value, so we have y to the power 4 plus 1, which gives us 5, and that is our final answer for this problem. Again, if you need to pause, do so, but I'm moving on to the next problem. Our next rule that we came up with was divide. We learned when you divide, you subtract your exponents. So let's look at that. The rule would be then if we have x to the power a divided by x to the power b, our final answer would be x to the power a minus b. Let's look at the example. Again, we're going to start with our coefficients. We have a coefficient here of 12 and 3. So we'll divide those numbers. 12 divided by 3 gives us 4. Then we'll look at our x values. Again, we have an x with no exponent, so it's x to the power 1 here. We will subtract our exponents. We have to subtract the numerator minus the denominator, so we'll have 1 minus 4. 1 minus 4 gives us a negative 3, so I'm going to erase that and replace it with negative 3. Now, I talked to at least one of you yesterday about what we can do with negative exponents, but since I haven't really talked with everybody, you may leave exponents as negative for today. We will look tomorrow together at what we do with negative exponents. And then finally, with our y values, we'll take 7 minus 3 from those y's, and 7 minus 3 gives us positive 4. That is our final answer for that one. I'm moving on. If you need to pause the video, do so now. Okay, our next rule is what happens when we raise a power to a power. That's when we had parentheses with another exponent outside it. When we do that, we found we should multiply those exponents. So x to the power a and then b. In that case, we'll have x to the power a times b. Looking at an example, this one is tricky because we have a number inside there as well. We have a coefficient. That coefficient gets raised to the power because it is inside those parentheses with everything else. So when we work this one out, we are going to have 4 to the power 3 because that 3 exponent works on everything inside. Then when we do our x values, we'll have 3 times x's exponent, which was 2. So we'll get 6. And for our y's, y had an exponent of 5. So we'll do 5 times 3 to get 15. Now we're not quite done because 4 to the power 3 actually has a simpler value. So we need to take 4 to the power 3 and find out what that value is. You can get that by putting 4 to the power 3 in your calculator or doing 4 times 4 times 4. Either way, you should get 64. And then we'll have x to the power 6, y to the power 15 for our final answer. Pause if you need to. I'm moving to the next slide. So finally, I wanted to look at one where we mix some of these rules up. This is number 16 from today's worksheet, so you can write this one right on your worksheet. You don't have to put it in the notes. But what happens when we mix one or more of these rules together? Well, let's look at the one we have here. We have these parentheses, and we have an exponent. I like to go ahead and simplify what's inside the parentheses first, and then do the exponent on the outside. So on the inside, the only things we can simplify are the m values because they're the only ones that have more than 1. So when we rewrite this, we'll keep the parentheses. We'll keep that number 5 on top, and m to the 3rd over m to the 5th. If we subtract 3 minus 5, we get a negative 2. And this looks terrible. I'm going to rewrite it. We'll have 5m to the power negative 2. The n doesn't change because there were no other n's inside to simplify. But then outside the parentheses, we still have the power 3. So now we need to work with that power 3 just like we did in the last problem. The coefficient gets raised to that power. And then we multiply our exponents, m to the power negative 2 times 3. Negative 2 times 3 gives me negative 6. And the n value, notice it has no exponent, so that exponent is 1. 1 times 3 gives me the power 3 for the n. Finally, take 5 to the power 3 and put that in your calculator, or do 5 times 5 times 5. You should get 125, m to the negative 6, n to the power 3. Okay, that is my final answer. You should know what you need to know to be able to do today's worksheet and finish up any work on yesterday's work that you were not able to finish yesterday. Please ask any questions that you need. Pause the video, go back and look at it again. And if you're really stuck, you can send one person across the hall to see Miss Rhodes, one person at a time, to be able to get a little bit of help. Then come back over and help the other folks in class. Good luck today. I will see you tomorrow.